finally, another word from Jamie Foxx. We owe him one. He helped open up the door to our story about Marvin Gaye. Jamie also has some thoughts about the Millennium.
What's your forecast for the Millennium? What do you think is going to be happening?
What I think is going to happen, I think that we're going to start to figure out a lot of things. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, they're getting with cloning, they're freezing people, and I think that's for a reason. I think that we're trying to figure out our origin. We're trying to, like, not recreate ourselves, but trying to figure out where we come from. Because I think that's what we all want to really know. It's like, what's really going on? I mean, we got a lot of legends and a lot of tales out there, but I think that we're going to eventually get closer to finding out what's really going on and how we actually got here.
That's it for now. Till next time, remember, it's a strange universe out there, and we've got it covered.
You're from Strange Universe. I watch you right after Vibe. I love the show. It's all that stuff true.
It was in his old apartment. Still had his name on the mailbox. And I was playing and the door comes open. They would say that whenever the music or whenever the vibe is right, the door would open and they said that was Marvin Gaye walking through it.
Jamie Foxx meets the ghost of Marvin Gaye. And he's not alone.
6 months after Marvin died, that some of the relatives started talking about they could feel Marvin's presence.
It's as though his death never took place.
Jamie Foxx and the ghost of Marvin Gaye.
And I was like, a little strange.
This is Strange Universe, the phenomenal daily news magazine. Now, Emmett Miller.
All right, here we go. A good example of how we find some of our Strange Universe stories. We sent a producer to a movie premiere. He met Jamie Foxx, the comedian and actor. Jamie Foxx told us a ghost story.
I'm gonna tell you, you know, this is a trip. I was talking to somebody, but I met Marvin Gaye's manager. I do a little music, and I was playing some music, and it was in his old apartment. And I was playing, and the door comes open. And they would always say, oh, that's just Marvin checking in. And they would say Marvin would always check in. If the music or something's going on real good, the door would just swing open. And that's the strangest thing. And I'm not that type of person to believe in, you know, you see people, well, I saw light in the sky and all that other kind of thing, but that's some real things that happen.
Not a bad yarn, right? Well, wait, it gets even better. We followed up and we investigated. We found out that Jamie Foxx, the comedian, wasn't being funny. It seems the spirit of Marvin Gaye, the late, great singer, has been showing up at some of his old haunts.
I can feel his presence. I can feel Marvin telling me to move on.
He was pure soul.
Maybe he is alive.
But now, some say he's all spirit.
And even I felt that. Protecting, opening doors, and just loving, you know.
Some say the late Marvin Gaye has somehow returned from the grave.
Marvin haunts you.
And now many of those who knew and loved him are asking the same question, echoing the title of one of Marvin Gaye's most famous songs. What's going on? Marvin Gaye's story was always a haunted one. In the 60s, he was Motown's original soul singer, the sexiest man to ever carry a tune. Yet, he was always a divided soul, torn between the love of the flesh and the love of the Lord. In the 70s, he led the way in his call for social change. In the 80s, he was at the forefront of sexual explicitness. But beneath the surface, a turmoil was brewing. Marvin Gaye's emotional struggles led him deep into cocaine. He haunted those around him. And in 1984, everything collided in the most horrific way. Marvin Gaye had become a man that no one recognized. He got in a terrible fight with his father, a preacher. His father had a gun. Marvin Gaye was killed by the man who gave him life. He died in the same tortured state of mind that followed him through his greatest successes. Many prayed he'd finally be at peace, that this was the end of a sad story. But in fact, a new story began.
I think basically it was around 6 months after Marvin died that some of the relatives started talking about they could feel Marvin's presence. They felt him guiding them, wanting to get involved in something that was good for them.
Mark Gaylord was Marvin Gaye's brother-in-law. He says the family began to feel a presence within months after Marvin Gaye was cremated.
Some of the family members I can remember saying, well, I can feel his presence. I can feel Marvin telling me to move on.
Mark Gaylord is one of many of Marvin Gaye's confidants we sought out after hearing Jamie Foxx's story. He was one of many to tell us that Marvin Gaye never left after all.
He was cool, he was kind, he was, open-hearted.
David Ritz may have known Marvin Gaye better than anyone. He worked closely with the singer in the last years of his life. He wrote his biography. It was called Divided Soul.
Since Marvin has been gone, I bet I've dreamt about him 100 times, a lot. He just pops up, and he's always alive in the dreams and giving concerts. It's as though his death never took place.
Dave Simmons was Marvin Gaye's right-hand man through most of the Motown years. To the end, he stood by this divided soul, and now for the first time, he reveals that after the end, the relationship continued.
The closest thing that I've had has probably been some very intense dreams, sometimes of things that might have happened on the road, sometimes not, but very clear, very, very real.
Kitty Sears was Marvin Gaye's personal assistant for a decade. She's with him still.
I knew that I was supposed to be there for Marvin, and I felt a very close bond to him, and I was with him till his death.
Which brings us back to Jamie Foxx. This is the apartment he told us about. Marvin Gaye used to live here in L.A.
Whenever the music or whenever the vibe is right, the door would open and they said that was Marvin Gaye walking through.
Jamie Foxx was a fledgling comedian when he visited friends who lived there years after Marvin Gaye died.
And I always would trip out on that because sometimes I'm in there by myself and the door, and I was like, it's a little strange, but they said that you can definitely feel his presence in that apartment.
Today, it's just an apartment in a complex in a neighborhood called Brentwood, a block or so from a haunted address on a street called Bundy. Marvin Gaye's presence is said to linger, and those who knew him are glad his spirit survives.
He's not gone. He's just on the other side. He's at the crossroads.
I'm sure that if he did come back, it would be because of the good times.
If someone says that they seen him or he's there, yeah, I believe that. Yeah, I truly believe that. And he's making plenty of noise up there.
And down here, too, it would appear.
My door's open. Anytime he wants to come in and kick it, he's more than welcome.
Later this week, we'll track the ghost of James Dean